Competences and your suitability for appointment as Cabinet Secretary within 5 minutes.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, to this appointment committee. Sorry?
Chairman or Speaker? Not
yes.
Chair. I'm sitting on a chair.
Chairman, although I would prefer chairperson, but I'll go by the chairman. Thank you very much. I think it's awkward. I think I just prefer to use the speaker. Thank you, Speaker. My names are Alice Muthoni Wahome. I'm an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. I have served as an advocate before, prior to the nomination in 2022. My last certificate as an advocate was for the year 2022. Thereafter, I'm a graduate, therefore, of the Nairobi University Law Faculty. Since then, I have served as an advocate in practice and served in
When I last checked, it was called University of Nairobi, not Nairobi University.
The University of Nairobi. Yes, I had said the university, and I take the correction, the University of Nairobi, where I finished in 1984, and then went to the law school in 1980 up to 1985. I got admitted as an advocate, and therefore, since then, I have had the opportunity to practice both as a state counsel in the Attorney General's office and also as an advocate in practice. I've done a lot of advocacy, human rights defense, and activism, you could call it that. I have served as a member of the Law Society of Kenya, served also as an advocate, as a vice chair for FIDA and other women rights organizations. I have then had the privilege to work as the Member of Parliament for Kandara for 2 terms. I served from 2013 to 2017. Then I got another privilege to serve 2017 to 2022. And then I still got the opportunity to be elected a 3rd term in 2022 August, when this government came into place. I got the privilege, as you have rightly said so, to be nominated as a Minister for Water, Sanitation and Irrigation in September 2022, where I served until 5th of October 2023. And then I was moved from that ministry by His Excellency the President in the exercise of his mandate to the Ministry of Lands, Public Works, Housing and Urban Development. I have served since then until the 11th of July this year, when I was dismissed under Article 152(5)(b). I think I would say that in terms of my competence, I am a team worker. I take a lot of pride in working within the team. I have had the privilege, I have talked about advocacy and training and litigation as a litigation lawyer, but within the Ministry of Water, I did various matters, various things in terms of the work, which was new to me that time. And my handover report speaks for itself. It talks about non-revenue, reducing non-revenue, coming up with frameworks for reducing non-revenue water. In water, we also were able to come up with a framework for water purchase agreements to work within the framework of PPP. We did several boreholes, several strategic plans to raise funding to the tune of, by the time I was leaving, we had about a total, including the Kenya budget, we had a total of about 80 billion for water. I was able to understand the mandate very fast, and we raised the water coverage from 65%, the national water coverage from 65% to 72% by the time I was leaving within that short period. And then sanitation from 26% to 32%. Now in the Ministry of Lands, where I have then served for those other 10 months, now I believe this was my 10th month, we have various programs that are running, and therefore I would say that in terms of the work that I have been doing, and I'm very thankful to His Excellency the President for returning me back by way of this nomination back to the ministry that I have been for the last 10 months. I find that as a confirmation in one way or the other, or expression of confidence that I did my work for those few months properly, and subject to the approval, I'm willing to serve the country in that capacity. There are a lot of challenges in the ministry, but in terms of competence as a lawyer, I do not find myself as a stranger. For example, in the State Department for Lands, where obviously there are matters that I had done before. I was exposed to conveyancing, but I was not exposed to some of the challenges that are there, including fraud, including cartels, including bad practices, which we have, with the support of Parliament, I'm sure we'll be able to overcome. So I'm a team worker, I'm a hard worker, I believe in hard work and honesty, and I have the right aptitude to carry out my duty as a minister. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll invite the Deputy Speaker to fire at you the first question.
Okay, Honorable Wahome, I'd like to ask you this, and because it's one of the questions that most lawyers are asking. There's been the ongoing digitization of land transactions and records to curb corruption. There's been the rollout of Ardhi, Sasa, which was having a challenge. And I know that also you had the ministry's strategic plan 2023-2027. Could you tell us what you are already doing in regards to these three areas, but also what you would do, and that you feel that there's still challenges going forward if your confirmation of your nomination is made? Thank you.
I thought you said you have some support staff with you.
The question is what we are doing in respect of the Ardhi Sasa, the digitization and digitalization system within the ministry, the Department of Lands. And that there are several questions coming towards that particular strategy to deal with the land. One, this particular program is meant to bring efficiency to secure land records and to provide maybe surety that the security of the records will be maintained with integrity. The program started way back in 2014, and where we are, I could safely say that we have been able to cover the entire Nairobi with about, which has about 300,000 titles, and you can be able to access the Ardhi Sasa platform, and therefore we are at a better place. But I still know that there are a few records that we are still working on loading. And of course, with the huge developments that are coming up, we'll still require to have a bigger space in terms of that platform so that we can capture LAD in real time, be able to give records to the public in real time, and accessibility becomes easier and more assured. The story of missing files should be one of our bad history, so that this is a system that we should encourage, embrace as an information management system. What we have moved now to Murang'a, to Isiolo, to Mombasa with the same system, and we are already working in another 27 registries where we have been able to take our scanners, because the first exercise you do is to network within provide the infrastructure. Then you do the scanning of the records. You know, our records have been manual. We want to, of course, to get rid of the manual records, not completely throw away the records, but be able to know that we have the information system secure, properly secured. But then the records are put on, on board, loaded. With that, then we can be able to say that I want to be very honest with the Parliament, because I'm at the right place. We needed a better budget, a bigger budget, to the tune of between 35 and 40 billion, to be able to secure all our records under the digitization system. And of course, the country needs to be able to have fiber networking in those other places. And therefore, another maybe 5 years, we can safely be able to do this, provided that we get sufficient budget as a country to cover it. And yeah.
Majority Leader.
Honorable Speaker, yes, nominee not.
Okay. Guys, it is not working.
No, it's working now.
Thank you. CS Nami, I will not ask questions of if you are approved, because you have been the Cabinet Secretary for Lands for at least a year or so. And you are aware there have been very many cases of land grabbing around the country. And we've also seen you on TV on some land which was alleged to have been grabbed somewhere in Loresho. And you also know of many other cases that have been brought to your attention, or the attention of your office, your former office at the Ministry of Lands, around Windsor and other areas. Cases where your ministry officials of the National Lands Commission, those from the police have been involved. I would want to hear what you would do, if approved, or what you have been doing to curb the rampant cases of land grabbing, and especially considering the recent court judgment by the Supreme Court that a title by itself is not prima facie evidence that you are the owner of, legitimate owner of land, that one needs to go beyond that face value of the title to check how that title was acquired from the initial first owner. And you're aware, many of the cases that you have been dealing with are cases where land is illegally transferred from the bona fide owners to land grabbers, and with the protection of or facilitation of officers in the Ministry of Lands, and protection of other government officers, including the police, they take away people's land. What is it that you have been doing to address that, and what will you do that will now completely curb that vice? Lastly, is your engagements with the National Lands Commission. I would want to hear your firm commitment to respecting independent constitutional commissions like that of the National Lands Commission, knowing their boundaries between the work of the ministry and independent commissions like the National Lands Commission. What is your position on the role of the National Lands Commission vis-a-vis the role of the ministry that you have been working in? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Honorable Ichung'wa, for those questions. It is true, and it should be actually a national tragedy to have the fact to have a situation where a title is not prima facie evidence, necessary prima facie evidence of ownership. When I was going through my university law course, I knew that title, and the land law that was taught is that title is sacred. The title deed is almost absolute, but it's no longer the case because, as you have rightly pointed out, we are aware of very many cases of fraud being carried out by Kenyans with the support of sometimes unscrupulous...
You mean Kenyan criminals? Because not every Kenyan is carrying out fraud.
Kenyan fraudsters.
Yes.
Kenyan fraudsters and cartels. And they are not just, when we say cartels, I want to clarify. They are powerful cartels, they are managed cartels. Some of them surprisingly have made money through those kind of fraudsters, but then maybe cleansed that money into institutions like schools, like banks, like other maybe real property investments. And they are also powerful. But of course, there are also the ordinary cartels and criminals also who don't have much money, but they are part of the whole system. And I have come across very many, and some are very sad cases, because people have, the cartels have reached a point where they don't respect the title deeds, and sadly, many times, or quite largely, the officers of the ministry have been, in numerous cases, part and parcel of procuring those kind of titles. When you look at the Land Act, to be able to deal a big blow to the cartels when they secure fraudulent titles, and you, Honorable Speaker, I mean that you are the owner, say, of this particular building, cartels come and they perform some miracle and procure another title, where your title is safely somewhere, maybe under the locus of this particular building or parliament. And that title is the normal paper that we use for titling in this country. But other times it could be that paper, but the signatures are superimposed, or signatures of former commissioners of lands, maybe former registrars, both dead and alive. Not that they are the ones who signed, but some of our retired officers have also been part of that cartel. They've been signing. Some in their death, they are said to have signed. And therefore, what am I doing? I think we need to work on some amendments very quickly on the Land Act, so that the minute the registry, the technical information on the land records are known to be interfered with, to have been fraudulently secured or changed, so then the registrar, say the chief land registrar, should be able to immediately effect a cancellation and leave by law, because the minister is the custodian of all land titles, and therefore be able to say this record should look like this, and so that the person flagging another title out there should be left to be the one to have the honors of going to court to prove that the ministry has changed records or altered records, and that these are the true records. What has happened is that the ministry, previously the courts have taken the position that a title is sacred, a title can only be cancelled by the court. And you know, for the court to arrive at a position where it is able to say that these are the records, truly the evidence must be produced before the court by the chief land registrar or through his officers, so that then the court can be able to rely, will always rely in a good judgment, well-reasoned judgment. The court should be able to summon, or the owners of the case to be able to call for witnesses and the right records to inform the court, to help the court arrive at the right decision, is evidence from the ministry. So therefore, then there is no reason why we should, as a ministry, not be able to rectify the records. When you look at the current section 79, yes, it's not clear that you can be able to alter that title. Anyway, Mr. Speaker, I have been asked what I have been doing. I have been utilizing that section. Severally, I have impugned some of the documents because they are obvious frauds, and therefore I'm not willing to take the dirty work of my ministry to the courts. Let the person alluding or alleging that they have a good title go take me to court, and that should happen to the same for everybody. What has the fraudsters have actually taken that section and utilized it in their favor, and you know they have the money to influence, to pay lawyers, good lawyers, and eventually you may be the owner of the title and find yourself losing. It has happened. We have several cases in the High Court, others in the Court of Appeal, where people, genuine owners of land, are struggling with judgments that don't make sense at all. And I do not want to go beyond that, but they don't make sense and they cannot. So therefore, we need to change the law to some extent to be able to give clarity to what the registrar should be able to do in the event that there is a clear fraud. I have taken the position that I will tackle the fraudsters. I have found myself in one of the notorious cases. I was actually locked up in a suit premises, not a suit premises, in a property that is clearly the records. I found the records had actually been already rectified, the records were okay, but there is somebody also claiming they have a good title. And I was locked by goons within, I think the police were part of the system, so that even when we entered there with them, as a minister, Honorable Speaker, and if there is one time I feared, is that one time, because it was down the valley. Even if it meant me running up, I would have had a challenge to run the hill up. And these are young goons who have been put to guard this property. Maybe you should ask, why did I think I should go there? I'm taking this fight to the crime scenes, Honorable Speaker. And I'm willing to do that because once I have established that this is a title, either for schools, for institutions, because these people have stolen land right, left, center. A lot of government land has been taken away, including prisons land. Institutions have lost land to them, to either people working within or people working within those institutions and other people. So I am taking the war to the crime scenes. And I believe that I need a lot of support from the police for purposes of enforcement. And but with the law, the answer is really dealing a big blow by use of the law, so that it is clear what we should do when we are faced with those kind of things. Yeah.
Junet.
Thank you, Chairman and Speaker. So, Mr. Chairman, my question to the nominee is, first, Madam Nominee, can you tell the committee in the period that you are there as a Minister for Lands, you have been, as you have just put it now, you have been following up grabbed lands and land that have been grabbed. Can you mention which public land can you say you have recovered from grabbers as of now? And secondly, whether it was necessary for you to go to that scene, what necessitated you going to that place? Because how many land can you visit if as a minister to go and that is a security issue, that is the enforcement issue. But more importantly, there was a bill that was authored from the ministry, the Lands Amendment Act, that was withdrawn by the majority leader. And you wanted to take the powers of the National Land Commission completely. What necessitated that? What was the reason behind why you wanted to usurp the powers of the Independent Commission? And lastly, the issue of disappearance of files in the Ministry of Land still exists. Kenyans go to the Ministry of Land, Ardhi House, they can't find their files. And we have been told that land was being digitized since when the former cabinet secretary was there, Farida. Up to that time, up to now, from that time up to now, digitization is still going on. But files cannot be traced. When will this issue of disappearance of Kenyans' files end, Madam CS? Thank you nominees, thank you very much.
The Honorable Ichongwa had asked the same question on the, what is our mandate vis-a-vis the mandate of the National Land Commission, and are we respecting the mandates of the, is there any issue? As far as I'm concerned, Honorable Speaker, there is no problem or challenge. We've not had any conflict or fight between my office and the office of the National Land Commission. In fact, I would say that I am having quite a cordial working relationship with the chairman and his commission. But that does not mean then we abscond or we abandon our duty, and therefore each has their mandate. Our main mandate in relation to titling is we are the ones, the minister is the one who does the leases. In fact, all leases in this country are signed by the minister. I would say not my signature, but for the minister. So I take responsibility for all the leases, including those that are going around there that are fraudulent. Secondly, we also do the title deed or the certificates of title. That's done by my registrars. So to that extent, then, our work is different because the National Land Commission's main mandate is to manage public land, administration and management of public land. And the amendments that we were proposing were speaking to the valuation. I still think that I will be able to come and persuade Parliament that valuation of government projects land, compulsory acquisition should be, the valuations should be done by the owners of the project, by the government, because we are the, you see, the National Commission is an independent organ of this country. And therefore, if it is the government that is doing its projects, there is nothing wrong in them doing the evaluations between the buyer and the government. And therefore, I think those are some of the amendments we were proposing. That does not take any power of the commission given under the Constitution. I think you could talk about maybe the law, but anything that is not working for the government within the law then requires some changes. You are aware that we have had a big challenge as a government by overstating and overvaluing you may not be able to confirm in terms of the valuations, the integrity and the authority of that valuation. The chief government valuer is under my ministry, and therefore that is something we've been in the leases are, what they do is to provide allotment, is to allow allotment and give no objection for allotments to be issued by the county governments, and therefore ensuring that public land is granted to only those who deserve to be granted the public land. And we have no dispute in respect of allotments of land between ourselves and the national government. So in terms of going, how many places can I go? If I can go to 5 or 10 and provide the statement that is needed to stamp authority of the government in terms of telling the cartels that I'm here and I will not allow, and I can tell you, Honorable Speaker, it has worked to some extent. But I said what I need is the law to be explicit, to be clear, to be able to tackle the problem of cartel. Otherwise, nobody is safe with their title deed if we are not going to deal a death blow to cartels. And I'm willing to walk along that journey with the Parliament.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll just make a brief comment because I was going to also ask some questions on the amendment bill, number 2 of 2023, but since it was withdrawn from the House, I will not dwell on it in the House in Parliament. I'll not dwell so much on it, but just to let you know, in case this committee approves you and the National Assembly, if you rethink of bringing it back, please look at some of the clauses that I need, because from the events of this that happened in this country 2 months ago, you have realized that we have a very informed population in this country. And so that issue of NLC had come up, and Kenyans were with issues of land, and you know how land is emotive. The second thing that was on it that Kenyans raised was the issue of inserting a new clause which will force freehold land owners, property owners who enjoy free ownership for perpetuity and can use the land for any purposes to pay land rate. You know, that was just a comment since it has been withdrawn. So to my question, one, who is a cartel? Every CS nominee talks of a cartel. I want you to explain to this committee your definition of cartel. The second question is the whole issue of the housing levy. By April 2024, the government had collected in excess of Kenya shillings 34 billion. How many houses can you confidently say have been constructed and completed as we speak? And lastly, with the Finance Act having been declared unconstitutional, I think yesterday, do you understand its import on the housing project, and what next if this committee then finds you suitable to hold that office? Thank you.
Take another. Nelson.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Mine is actually very brief. Affordable housing is one of the key pillars of Kenya Kwanza administration. In fact, the president has been many times quoted as saying it was a deliberate way of creating employment. I want to ask you, Honourable nominee, how many young people have been employed by this program?